You're watching the Battered Fans Network.
The Herons are champs. Yeah. Roll out to Freedom Park, rocking pink and black. Official tissue in the 305, bounty full of greats. The Battered Fan with Chris and Dan dropping hot takes. Messi and the Herons start the season with a star on the crest. So 29 fan bases can cry, cause we the best. Sign homegrowns like Noah, Frey and Ruiz, replacing goats with greats. Yeah, Miles got the cheese and he called it. Freedom to dream was the backbone. From Lockhart to Miami, it feels good to be at home. Multiple times a week on YouTube and audio. Take the time to subscribe, like and share the show. So check and chat, grab your MLS cup and coming. No question about it, I'm ready to get a star again.
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
Chris, the Herons are back. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 507 of the Battered Heroes podcast. I am your host, Daniel Granada, and alongside me, as always, actually, no, Mr. KBD is not here. He might join us, he might not. We'll see. But I wanted to get the show started, and it seems like I can't win. Some people asking why early. You guys usually complain that we're always late, but we're early today. We're talking about CCC. We're talking about second leg. We're talking about win or go home. We're talking about the season. Because if we do not win, if we do not continue on this CCC path, a lot of people are going to anoint this as a failure of a season already. It'll be March 18th, less than a month into the season, and people will be saying that they failed, that the season is lost, that it's pointless, so on and so forth. So this is a much bigger game for us than it is for Nashville, because if Nashville loses, I mean, they'll say, you know, we put up a good fight. We were supposed to lose. If Miami loses, it will be a disaster. And to paint the picture for you guys, it's very simple. Because it was a scoreless draw in Nashville, it's very simple. If anybody scores, Miami has to win. Plain and simple. The only way that Miami doesn't have to win is if it's a scoreless draw again, then they go to extra time, which could also lead to penalties if nobody scores. Okay? But outside of that, if there is a goal by either Miami or Nashville, Miami needs to win the game. So just think of it that way, because I highly doubt that we're going to have these two teams go to another scoreless draw. Miami just needs to win. Win and continue. And that's it. Plain and simple. If they draw 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, 4-4, 10-10, 100-100, doesn't matter. If they draw with Nashville and a goal was scored, Nashville will move on. That's it. So, should be fun. Should be really fun. And also, it's the final game at, whether you want to call it Drive Pink Stadium, Chase Stadium. It is official tissue, the final game we will play there, because after that, the next home game will be on April 4th, hosting Austin FC in the new stadium. So, a lot of things coming. Chris might not join us. We do not know yet if he will or he won't, but we do have a guest. He is returning from last week, back by popular demand, because a lot of people are like, it didn't seem like he was very biased, which is fair if you're a biased home fan, but he was straight down the middle. People found him to be very informative. I enjoyed the conversation, so we're bringing him back. We're bringing Tyler from BigTV back on, so let me bring him on here. Tyler, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good. It was a good weekend. The weekend was decent. The last game that we played, of course, came out okay. Had a little bit of time to reflect on that. And hey, I mean, 3 teams rested their players for the Champions Cup this Wednesday or this week. And only one of them got a win. And that was our team. So I'm happy with that.
Well, and it was in the 94th, 95th minute. So
yeah,
both Miami and Nashville have now played 2 games over the last 7 days. And in those games, we have a combined 1 goal by Nashville. That's in the 95th minute. So, you know, it's been a rough go so far. But like you said, rotated rosters. So let's get rocking and rolling. We didn't get to talk to you. I know you joined us in the chat briefly. Your thoughts on the first match from the first leg?
I feel like what BJ said. I've done this a couple of times. Hey, Brendan's always on the channel. Big supporter. Appreciate you. The the way I look at it is exactly how BJ Callahan put it. Pleased, not satisfied. I think as I reflected coming out of that game, I wasn't too disappointed. I feel like we showed that we could compete, which was step number one of what we're looking to do. I feel like we missed a lot of opportunities, and really we should have this should have been kind of like a 2-0 tie going into this game for us. We should have been ahead. And honestly, I think we've got a lot to do. And I think the only real positive I came out of the stadium with was the fact that we had the away goals rule in this next tie. And I think that's an unusual thing to come away thinking, and a weird thing to feel as you come away from a game. But honestly, that draw isn't the worst result for us. And I do think, as you were mentioning, I sat in the green room bit just before, as you were talking about, I feel like the pressure is definitely on you guys this time. I feel like looking at it today, on the day I was a little bit disappointed, but it was okay. Today I look at it and think we had the pressure on us last week, and it was definitely on our terms. It was our pressure. You guys have got all the pressure now of kind of the whole MLS world, the whole... your ownership have massively got a ton of pressure on you guys to win this. And I think even what you've done at the weekend increases that pressure on you guys. With us, out of the 3 teams that rested players this weekend, we probably rested the least. But for me, I think in terms of footballing history, form trumps everything. Keep winning, keep winning games. And honestly, that's the most important thing. That's why you see in maybe the Premier League, Man City or whoever it is that's going to win that year, go and win the Carabao Cup first. And I feel like winning is the biggest thing. And we're really early in the season. I don't think we necessarily need to be resting players this much. So much rest has gone on already. But I'm feeling like you guys have the pressure. I feel like we go in with the opportunity to take a big scalp here, a big hit. I just hope we don't kind of overthink this and we just play our game.
If it wasn't for Miami's poor form to start the year, I think I feel a little more confident. Now, to be fair to Miami, I do believe that Miami has the advantage. I think that Nashville blew their opportunities. I felt like Miami came out with a poor selection for their starting 11. You said you guys press high. We should have had somebody that could kind of break those lines when you guys push up that high, and we didn't. We put in Segovia instead of Silvetti, which is one of our vertical threats. And I thought that it was just an odd way to go about this. We depended on our left back, Noah Allen, to provide a lot of the attack down that left side, and he's not that guy. He won't give you what you need. Now, we are going to have Region probably starting, I think, on the left side. He showed that he can contribute in the attack in this weekend's game against Charlotte. Even though they didn't score, he showed that he has the ability to contribute a lot more down that left side. So I think that Miami's going to be more dangerous. And when you know how they say, if you don't take advantage when you have an opportunity to be a good team, you end up paying for it. And I kind of feel like that might be the way this goes. Now, obviously, you never know because Miami's been so unpredictable this year. They've played now 5 games, 10 halves, and in those 10 halves, they've only scored in 2 of them. They have 8 scoreless halves. Now, fair that 2 of them were on a rotated roster, but they haven't necessarily looked good. So I'm not going to say that I feel extra confident or anything along those lines, but I do think Miami can get it together. They do show up in big moments. They were in this situation last year against LAFC. They lost 1-0 in LA. They came back to Miami, and then LA scored a goal in the first 15 minutes, and they went up 2-0 on aggregate with an away goal at that moment. And Miami still managed to score 3 and pull off the victory. So, big teams and big-time players like Messi show up in these moments, and that's kind of what I'm leaning on. But outside of leaning on that just because of who they are, I mean, Nashville has a great chance, I think. But I do think that Miami came out with the wrong game plan, with the wrong lineup, and Nashville almost took advantage. They just couldn't finish.
I would say, like, if talking like the game specifically, if we go back and look at that game a little bit more in detail, I think the biggest thing I noticed was that we both changed our game plan for each other. So, I'm big on my tactical analysis and kind of looking at what everybody's doing. Mura was the player that I thought was going to be pushing right up. And honestly, he was not really doing that until kind of the late part of the second half. And Nashville, we have spent the whole season playing the ball through, passing our way through teams and happily doing that from the back. All we did was hit Espinoza against Allen every single time we distributed the ball. Shwaki, I mean, even I think twinged his hamstring doing that because we haven't been doing it all year. Like he's not been doing that. And that was the battle, was basically our ball out was Espinosa versus Allen. Now, I think the addition of Region is going to change that completely. And I do think it changes the complexion of this game. And also, I think it's going to be interesting to see how we now look at this game. Because I think both teams kind of sparred with each other. And we kind of had this approach of, let's see, but we're not going to do too much. Let's see how this pans out. We played in a way that I hadn't seen us play. And we're definitely adapting to more oppositions than I thought we would this year. But I'm intrigued to see now. We're both going to have to take the gloves off and just go for it. I don't think we can be sparring and sort of this is the big tie. And I think maybe the game plan for Nashville is to try and sit in as long as we can, a bit like we did this weekend. Just sit in, let the time pass, and maybe try and grab something at the end. But it's going to be such an interesting game. There's going to be an element of tension here that I think we haven't seen in these kind of ties between our two teams for a while.
I think last week a lot of people were predicting maybe that would be a high-scoring game, a 3-2, something along those lines. I don't think many people are predicting that this week. I think people assume that they're going to no team wants to give an advantage by turning the ball over while pressing high. I think that this is going to be a slow-paced game where they're kind of going to feel each other out for a lot of the first half. I expect if Region plays, that Espinosa and Nahar are going to be aware of that space they're leaving in behind. And it's going to be kind of keep everybody a little hesitant before they kind of just go all in. I think the second half might open up a little bit, especially for Miami, because, I mean, they know that they need to score or they can go to extra time technically, but I think you want to win in the 90. When you look at the starting 11 for Nashville, are you expecting the same starting 11?
So Reed Baker-Whiting is a debatable one. He didn't feature at all at the weekend. He made a massive crunching tackle right in front of me on Allende, I think it was, in the second half. And I could hear that. I'm up in the second tier and I could hear it. It was like a massive hit. And he's got sort of like an ankle doubt since then. I would prefer to see a different midfield, I think. Corcoran in there. I was discussing this with a friend at the weekend, whether we see Corcoran in there to really see out the game a little bit more, kind of spend more of that time, and then we start to try and press in the second half? Or are we going to try and go out there, get a step in front, and then make you guys chase us? I think if we want to do that, we're probably going to play Tagseth. But we've seen the kind of relationship between Tagseth and Messi is like really fraught immediately in the game on Wednesday night. As soon as Tagseth comes on, Messi's sort of like started amping himself up. And suddenly he's like running back, making slide tackles and then sprinting down the wing. And there's also almost a part of me that feels like, well, if we can bore Messi enough that he doesn't want to get involved, well, then maybe we play Corcoran, because he's clearly, I mean, Tagseth's been on him, for a number of games now. And, but then Corcoran did an amazing job in the playoffs of just kind of marking Messi out of the game to some extent, in the game, the home game, that is. But yeah, I think that's the one position that's sort of debatable, is who we're going to see in that other pocket in the midfield. Yazbek, as you can see on the player ratings there, played very well, and has played well for us for a number of games now. He's really in form. That's really the biggest pocket, is that one. And it's only going to be one of those two. Eddie Tagseth or Corcoran are the two players that are going to play. I can't see Acosta coming in. He had a pretty poor game at the weekend, to be honest with you. So yeah, I mean, that's the only real decision. The other question is, of course, Muil. Alex Muil could play on that left-hand side instead of Madrigal. But
Madrigal had a brutal game last week.
He missed the two big opportunities. That's the thing. And it depends. I mean, with an Espinosa, you can do that. He can tell you about it in the press conference and then come out and score the next game. Madrigal's a lot younger. He's not that experienced. He's not going to be able to come and do that, you wouldn't think. But maybe it's a chance to prove us wrong and to make a point of it.
Now, I'm interested in what the chat has to say about the starting 11 for Inter Miami, because Inter Miami came out and they started, which was a surprise, Segovia out wide, which he isn't a wide player. He doesn't give you pace. He's more creative on the ball in the middle of the pitch. So it was a little odd that they started him over Silbetti. I do believe, and I hope, that they go Silbetti, because he does give you that vertical threat. He does give Nahar, I would say, a moment of hesitation before he pushes up too high, because he doesn't want to leave it in that space. And Silvetti gives you that threat. Allen won't. Segovia doesn't. Now, what I hope that Inter Miami does is that they come out in a 4-3-3 traditional with Yannick Bright as the single pivot, and then you have the box-to-box kind of flanking on each side with Rodrigo De Paul and Segovia because that's where they work the best. And then you have Messi out wide on the right side. Now, Berterame is somebody that I don't know what you thought of him when you saw him last week. Berterame has kind of become as, I don't want to say a villain, but everybody's really down on Berterame right now in Miami because they brought him in as a third DP. He is scoreless through 5 games, and I think that it takes an adjustment period. The issue is that they brought him in for the Champions Cup, right? They wanted to make sure that they had as many weapons as possible to go chase this Champions Cup, and he has not panned out, at least not finishing-wise. And he hasn't looked dangerous at all. In Nashville, he didn't look dangerous at all. What did you think of what you saw about Berterame?
Honestly, I wasn't too concerned with him. He was fairly anonymous. I spent a lot of the game kind of, obviously you watch Messi because he disappears throughout the game. He disappears and then reappears, and you've always got to keep that eye on him because that's kind of what he's done throughout his career. He just disappears while everyone's focused on another part of the field, and then suddenly he appears in that pocket, or well, it could be any pocket, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. I think the Berterame thing is particularly disappointing given some of the names that were mentioned ahead of his signing as well. I think you guys had some big, I can't remember who it was now, but I remember thinking, oh my goodness, we're in real trouble if that's the signing. But honestly, I think I can't even really remember a moment where I was particularly worried about what he did in that game. I agree with you what you were saying about Segovia. I was really confused by your lineup when I sat in the stadium trying to work out where he was going to play. And I thought, hang on, that's not quite where I thought he was going to be. Like, that's not where he's most effective. But I do think we sat Andy Nahar back in that corner. I will say that as well. He definitely sat back a little bit more to make sure that we didn't have that threat in behind. But yeah, Berterame, and for me, I didn't even really notice him. And that's not what you want to hear.
No, absolutely. No, you didn't notice him. You guys had a very compact defense. You weren't letting Messi breathe. There was no space to make runs. And honestly, with Noah Allen coming down the left, and I'm a big Noah Allen supporter, but the responsibility they're giving him to contribute in the attack isn't his game. I think defensively he might be better than Region. I saw somebody in the chat put that they think that Noah Allen will probably start and maybe Region comes in as a sub. That's possible also because I do think that Noah Allen gives you more defensively than maybe Region did because he didn't look crisp at all defensively this past weekend. But I do think Silbetti will help stretch the defense. Allende also, but I don't see them. I think that the midfield set as Segovia, DePaul, and Bright. So you either start Silbetti or Allende. And look, Allende has looked really poor so far this season, like he did last year, really, because the only really highlight he had last year was those 6 games in the playoffs. Outside of that, he really didn't give you much last season. And it looks a lot like the same this year. So that's what I'm expecting. So you would say that you're expecting Nashville to come a little more conservative, maybe not push the pace, defend a little bit, maybe catch us on the counter?
We have been playing in different ways, like a little bit more than I expected us to. I mean, if it's kind of anyone that's had a little bit more about them, we've looked like we've paused to think about it a little bit more than with some of the other opposition in MLS. So Minnesota and New England Revolution, we kind of just blew through them, and we didn't really change. That's kind of like the prototype of how we want to play. What we're going to see, I think, in this game is I think we are going to have to soak up a little bit more of that pressure. And I think we're going to see maybe more of that same kind of trying to play the ball into Espinoza long and just bypass you guys, like bypass that midfield. Because I do think that midfield is a much better midfield just as I look at it. I feel like that's the midfield that you would want. And I feel like that midfield beats our midfield on its own, for sure. I actually think our front line is, ironically, despite the fact that Messi's in that front line, but I think our front line is where our strength really is.
Yeah, I would take Surridge and Mukhtar over Berterame any day.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really tough to call. I'd like to see us try and hit hard at the start.
Well, and not to cut you off, but I remember last year we thought LAFC would kind of play it safe since they had that 1-0 lead, and they hit us in the mouth the first 15 minutes. All of a sudden, we're down 2-0, and we got to score 3, and eventually they did, but I wouldn't be surprised if Nashville comes out aggressive just to start off, see if they can get one early. And if they can't, then they kind of retreat into a more mid-block or low block, kind of play the counter after that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we can sit in a low block with the way you guys play. There were a number of times last week where we started to slowly back towards the penalty box, and I think there was a little bit of a nudge from BJ to step up, because you can't sit up that far back with you guys. You can't give, the Paul Segovia like that kind of amount of space on the edge of the box. It's all well and good kind of watching your front three, but it's actually the space that you leave for them to then get those range finishes in, or a good finish from the edge of the box, like a DePaul goal from a couple of weeks ago, for instance, where everyone's just following Messi. I mean, that's not, we can't do that. You've got to sit in a mid block at the most. And we did sit in more of a mid block against you at times than we have been. We've been very aggressive and very front foot. But honestly, like, there's kind of a lack of major pace there between, he's not slow nowadays, but I feel like we could be a little bit more aggressive than we have been. Because I like I say, Berterame didn't really strike me as someone to be too worried about in that department either. So I would like to see a more aggressive Nashville side that really puts the pressure on and plays without fear. And that's the biggest thing. Can this team, there's not really anything to lose for us, whereas there's a ton to lose for you guys.
Absolutely.
And I honestly think we need to go in with that approach. I think we're on a good path, and there just needs to be that boost of confidence and know that we are heading towards good things. And if we can get early with some silverware here, it's obvious that these three teams are all pretty desperate for this early silverware. 3 teams from MLS. So I think we just got to go and hit you guys quite hard and see what happens. Because I do feel like I've seen you guys sort of struggle under that pressure a little bit occasionally this season already.
Well, the thing is, with Berterame, he's a vertical threat. Like, he doesn't have a lot of touch on the ball. He's not going to create for others. He's a poacher. He's a poacher or he's a vertical threat because of his pace. And teams generally, when they think that they're outmanned, they kind of play a more defensive style. And so far, early part of the season, they haven't given us an opportunity to go vertical or be very direct. We've been forced to hold the ball and try to break teams down, and we haven't had success with that, especially with Berterame up top. If you guys end up going a little lower, maybe not a low block, but somewhere in that mid block range, and you kind of cancel out those vertical runs, Miami might have to turn to Luis Suarez, because the best we've looked breaking down a compact defense has been with Luis Suarez, Segovia, and Messi touching the ball around and finding spaces, making those well-timed runs, with Allende cutting in behind that back line. So that's when we've been our best. So I wouldn't be surprised if you guys start playing that type of ball if Berterame comes off for Luis Suarez, because Luis Suarez, although he can't finish like he used to, his football IQ is still off the charts, and he showed it just this past weekend. He was playing with, all the subs, but he was still creating chances for others. They weren't able to finish, but he was still creating those chances. And Luis Suarez can help this team out immensely if given the time on the ball. And if that's what we need, Berterame is going to have to come out.
Yeah, I can see that. I think the only thing that I would question with Suarez is the physical element against our 2 centre backs. If they're going to play as aggressively as I think they can, I think if we saw Suarez, for instance, in there, I think the aggression, and like that's the thing that I was noticing on Suarez, is kind of like the physical element. He just looks a little slow off there, he's pretty slow nowadays. And I just wonder if the aggression that we want to play with from our centre backs could end up causing you guys more issues, as much as it would be great to see him play those balls in. And I think that is a way to play around this Nashville side, is to have that player that's kind of in that kind of false, basically end up being more of a false 9 type player that's connecting with the midfield and allowing other players to really serve them. I do wonder if we'd end up seeing our centre backs just being able to take advantage of that. Like, I don't know, how did you feel about Waleji against Messi and co last game on the Wednesday? Because I felt like no matter what happened, either he or our midfielder was dropping in to make sure that Messi really didn't get a chance to do anything. And I feel like that could be, again, a bit of a pain for Messi.
And you know what? It's funny because last Wednesday we have an award that we call the Que Pena Award, which is in Spanish is the embarrassing is what it is. And obviously I was being hyperbolic. I gave it to Messi. Messi wasn't embarrassing by any means. But because it was such a big game, I did feel like he wasn't, kind of like you said, Berterame was kind of, you really didn't notice him. I felt the same about Messi. I felt like Messi kind of got shut out last game. And this is probably his Yeah, it's probably the worst performance I've seen of him in a very long time since he's been with Inter Miami. I can't remember one where I felt like he was just invisible. He didn't have an opportunity. He was constantly marked, and he had no space to run into. He had nobody there to connect with him. They had Segovia, which is the only link-up play that Messi ever has in the center of the pitch. They had Segovia out wide. He had to play basically like an inverted winger to kind of try to help out. Like I thought it was a messy game drawn up by Mascherano. And Messi left the pitch very upset, which is understanding. And I don't think that you see Messi have a game like that again. I think that Mascherano could, should, and would kind of set things up to where we can take advantage of what I'm hoping is still going to be an aggressive Nashville, because I think BJ Callahan will still chase the game, and I think that Messi will have a redemption game. Not that he needs one, right? Messi's Messi. He could retire today and still be the greatest of all time, all that. But, I'm sure that he carries himself to a high standard. And last week, I'm sure he left very frustrated. And I'm pretty confident that he's going to make up for it this game. But yes, back to what you were originally saying, I thought Nashville did an amazing job of defending just Inter Miami in general, but Messi specifically, because there wasn't a lot of, even though he did have that one opportunity that got blocked, and then Berterame got the rebound, and he just skied it. And at that point, all of Inter Miami just shrugged. Like, what is this guy Berterame doing here? But I think Berterame will be okay. You just got to give him time.
Yeah, I would say the one thing I felt like Messi being there in the stadium, he's always a threat. He does disappear when, maybe he disappears from where you would see him on camera screen, on screen with the camera. But he is always going to be a threat and appear somewhere. But I felt like we saw in the last couple of minutes that he could have given more. Genuinely, he could have given more.
Tackle, right?
When he comes back for the sliding tackle, he then paces down the wing, sprints down the wing, wins that free kick, which I don't know if it was really a free kick from where I was stood, but he wins that free kick. And suddenly you've got a set piece and you've got problems and pressure on Nashville in the last couple of minutes of the game. So to me, that says that you could have done that. You chose not to most of the game. And I don't know if that's an attitude thing that he kind of, I know that he maybe doesn't want to expend so much energy. But we see this
now.
Yeah, we see this with both those kind of great players, historically, Ronaldo and Messi, where they don't maybe contribute too much to that part of the game. Salah's doing the same now at Liverpool as well.
Salah's looking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But we see that where they don't really contribute to that side of the game. But when your team's at that point and you know that the ownership want you to really make a point of this and get a win here, maybe you could have started doing that 15, 20 minutes before the end of the game, because it caused us problems straight away. Honestly, half the time it's like you guys play with 10. And he does come in and contribute in those little passes maybe. But if you can shut him down and make sure that he doesn't get any quality on the ball, really, it is like you guys were playing with 10. And it was kind of odd to watch, because I was fearful of it all day. All day I'm looking, where's Messi gone? Where is he? The whole field's moved this way and he's still out there on the right wing. Has anyone caught him? Has Reed Baker-Whiting looked at him? Oh no, he's not seen him over his shoulder. But as soon as he got the ball, someone was out to him and we took care of it. So it's disappointing. If I was, as a fan, you always just want to see players try their best. And it felt like in that game, maybe he could have given more and he didn't.
It's possible. I'm not sure if the rotation for this weekend was already pre-planned. I don't know if he was saving himself to play 3 games in 7 days. But regardless, I think everybody in the chat, and it's the first time that I say that Messi didn't play well, that I don't get killed in the chat. So it's obvious that everybody agrees, which is nice, because in the last 3 years, whenever I say Messi didn't play well, I get killed. But I think everybody noticed that it wasn't his a good performance. But I think we also agree that we're expecting a lot from him this game coming up. I think Nashville fans also are expecting Messi to show up this weekend, so it's going to be interesting. Are there going to be a lot of Nashville fans traveling on a weekday down here for this game?
I don't see it. I don't see a big contingent going there, to be honest with you. Maybe a few, but it's going to be it's going to be your last home game at the stadium to fill out or not fill out, depending on how I know you guys say you don't feel about it too strongly, but it's going to be that last game there. And it's going to be full of pink. So these guys have got to show some mentality as well, some grit in the opposite direction for sure.
if Nashville eliminates Miami, at that point, are you thinking we need to win the CCC at this point because Miami is the largest threat, or because I mean Club America is lurking right after?
Yeah. I don't know if Nashville fans as a whole would be thinking that. I think for the majority, Nashville fans want to be into Miami, and that's about as far as it goes. Like the idea beyond that, I don't know if any of us have really computed that too heavily. I think for the most part, we're just thinking we got into Miami in front of us. Let's just do what we can, and then let's show them what we can do. And we're bored of losing, and we're bored of being knocked out of competitions by this team, or Leagues Cup. So we're bored of that. Let's make a point. And yeah, I think the narrative would probably change. I honestly sometimes some fans aren't necessarily clued in onto what any of this actually means. Sometimes they're explaining what this competition even is to certain fans. So
that was going to be my next question. I'm glad that you brought that up, because I saw some people on Twitter saying oh, nobody even cares about this. All anybody cares about is the MLS Cup. How does Nashville feel about this? Because I know that you guys were hyped for the U.S. Open Cup, so I'm assuming this has to be a big deal, right?
Yeah, I mean, fans, the hardcore fans, the fans that are kind of deep into soccer, that aren't sort of more broad, we come when Titans aren't playing type fans, are super, it's a big thing. And I think that's our angle right now. I think for Nashville, cups are the angle. And I think the first, getting silverware this season is the most important thing. I don't think we're looking to get MLS Cup. I don't even know if we're really looking to get Supporters Shield, but I think between Champions Cup and Leagues Cup, we've got to be taking one of those, basically. It would be my idea for this project. If you look at it as a project, and the owners have said about wanting to compete and being strongly competitive, and our general manager has particularly singled out, Inter Miami as a team that when we play Inter Miami, we have to be winning, then if you knock out who would be probably arguably the biggest team in the competition, you've then got to consider yourselves as somewhat, maybe not favorites, but pretty close seconds to that. And I think Nashville can do that on their day. I think we can do that. It's just about this mentality and seeing an elite mentality this time. Are we going to see that, or are we going to see what we kind of saw last year? And I think we have the players that can lead us to that potentially. But can everyone get on board with that? We have Espinoza, and I think psychologically he gives a big advantage to this team. I think he brings a lot to the locker room. It's now a case of what can we see from the younger players in there, and what are they taking from him? And does that bring us to our elite level where we can really compete and, win a cup? I think winning a cup is the first thing, and I think Nashville can be a cup team right now.
The last time the Nashville beat Miami in Miami was September 22nd, 2021.
Yeah.
So almost 5 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Nashville has beat Miami in Nashville, but in Miami seems to play well. And I'm talking before Messi and everything. Miami has played Nashville well at home. So this is a home game. Nashville probably won't travel very well. It's during the week.
No.
It's just so it's big home field advantage, and Messi scoring his 900th goal in the final game in that stadium. Yeah, maybe it's a good shot, Anguis. I could see something like that happening. So here we go. Win or go home for Miami. Nashville, I think, like you said, not as much pressure, not any pressure. I think it's house money at this point because most people are expecting to lose. But like a lot of people are saying on Twitter, one thing that Miami did do was bring the league together because 29 fan bases are rocking with Nashville on Wednesday night. So my question to you, your final score prediction.
I was on the Columbus Crew podcast, one of the Crew podcasts the other day, and they said, the away team's never won this fixture, and we got the win at the weekend. And you just said the same about it's been 5 years since Nashville won there. I honestly, I've been calling this for kind of the whole week, and I don't know if my opinion's changed on it. I'm going to call it as a 1-1 when we go through on away goals. That sounds really, I mean, honestly, the start of this year, I was wondering whether we can really hold teams out. And I actually think that our defense is getting to the point where we can, and we can keep teams out. And I think we can actually sit on a lead, or in this case, a lead with the away goals. I think we could do that. So I'm gonna call it as a 1-1. I think it's gonna be tense. And honestly, I look at it two ways. We're either going to see two teams absolutely go for it against each other now, and we're going to see the high scoring game we expected in the first leg, and I'm just being influenced by what I've seen, or it's going to be a tight, edgy game. And I think Reguilón's an interesting option for you guys to bring on to change that kind of up in that position, and I'm intrigued to see if he can have an impact, particularly from an attacking perspective, maybe later in the game. But I think you guys probably have a little bit more off the bench as well.
My worry is what Espinosa will do to Reguilón when he gets him out on an island, because at least I mean, he's rusty. He hasn't played in a while, but what I saw this weekend against the Charlotte team, defensively he doesn't bring me a lot of confidence. I will say I called the draw last week. I thought that I did not call it scoreless draw, but I called it a draw. I thought that this is the best possible draw for Miami, right? A scoreless draw, because you go in and you just have to win. With that said, I think that they're going to make us suffer a bit. I think it will be 1-1 at some point. Nashville will score first, or Miami will score first, and Nashville at some point will tie. But like I've seen so many times, whether it be in the playoffs or Leagues Cups or just in general, Miami just turns it on the last 15 minutes of the game, and somehow they'll pour in two just late. And I'm going to say 3-1 victory. They'll make Miami fans suffer, but Messi will find a little Messi magic late in the game. Early in the game, he'll just get a random goal from Segovia, Yannick Bright. Like, just something will just happen, and we'll ride that out. Nashville will somehow score, and we'll suffer. We'll suffer through it, but they'll pull away in the end with a little Messi magic at some point. And I'll say that it'll be a 3-1 victory in the end.
Yeah, and you bring an end to Brian Schwacke's run as undefeated goalkeeper for Nashville SC. That would be it. That would be the other little historic moment. I think he's on the cusp of being not sure what the stat is, but some big stat. And a loss would be a first time for him in goal, which is weird to say in 2 years.
So you guys are not feeling the Joe Willis loss?
No, not at all. Not at all, really. He's he's essential to the way we play. The way that he's got so much control with the ball at the back, and his distribution is so much better. He's honestly barely had to make any saves this year, which I think is a testament to the defense and what we're able to do. And these, will actually makes a massive difference in this team, the way that we can play out the back. But interesting. Do you think the DNA is the same for this Inter Miami team, despite the losses of those kind of great players who've been in, so many Champions League finals, the Liga finals? You've lost players that have been around that so much, and brought in. No, you don't think you've lost
the same DNA? I think we have. I think we have lost it. RDP isn't a like-for-like exchange with Busquets. I think Busquets is light years ahead of Rodrigo de Paul. Rodrigo de Paul has looked okay this season. I wouldn't say he looks like a DP player by any means. He's had a good game here and there, and then Jordi Alba. We lost with Jordi Alba. I think it doesn't get talked about enough. 2 years ago, 70% of our attack was built up that left side with Jordi Alba. Last year was a little more balanced, but we're missing that. And then again, they've tasked Noah Allen with filling that void. He can't do that. You see Messi make those runs from the right side of the box to the left side of the box, and he's looking for Noah Allen to make that overlapping run with the winger, and nobody's there to receive those balls. And we're feeling that absence. People aren't talking about it enough, because that is huge. Those are huge losses. Busquets was pulling all the strings in the midfield. Jordi Alba was contributing in the attack on the left side. Yeah, big losses. And and Luis Suarez, we didn't lose him, but we lost his quality, because 2 years ago he was in top 5 conversation for MVP, and then last year he fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
So we've had huge losses over the last 18 months, I'd say. But with all that said, I think we've improved defensively with Mikael and Falcon. Yannick Bright, I think, has been a really bright spot in the midfield defensively as a holding midfielder. Yeah. And then, so we'll see. But yes, the DNA has definitely changed.
And does that change your, two things there? one, is Falcon going to play? Is he back after that injury in the last game on Wednesday? And the second question is, does that change your belief in that kind of last 15-minute element of just they'll always get the win? Because I felt like it was inevitable with Busquets and Alba, and great players, no doubt, like players that I admired watching in Barcelona years ago when I was growing up. It's like, wow, what players! But that's what to me made you guys feel inevitable. And I don't know if that. I'm not quite as scared as that. I'm just scared of the Messi element, and of course, just the overall way you play, the way that you play as a team, the cohesiveness, and kind of the way that you pass, and the technical aspect. I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, that's gone away. So far in the early part of the season, we haven't seen. It's been 4 games, right? I'm not going to count the game we played against Charlotte because it was a rotated roster. So in the first 4 games, no, we've definitely lost it. And LAFC, we looked lost. Right, we couldn't create any chances, and then everybody's like, "Oh, but in the second half they look better." No, what happened was that LAFC, they bunkered down to a low block and they let us try to break them down. So yeah, we spent more time on the ball. So technically, we had more chances, we had more shots. We were shooting from outside the box, but we looked poor that game. And then I'm blanking on what the second game was. Oh, the Orlando game was the second game, I believe.
Yeah.
Which the first half, again, terrible. But then Messi came out and had a little Messi magic in the second half.
Mm-hmm.
And then we played against Nashville. Here we are, Washington.
Yeah,
it hasn't been looked good. But although we lost that DNA, although we lost Busquets and Jordi Alba, Messi on the ball creates so much attention that he opens up spaces for others. And I think in those pressure moments, because Nashville, maybe they were at home, they didn't feel it. It's the first leg. Second leg, you feel that pressure a little more. Once it gets down to the 70th minute and one goal can change the series completely, I feel like some players might feel that. And Messi's going to be calm in those moments. And he brings out the best in others. I think although the DNA has changed, I think the Messi magic is something that everybody still counts on. We haven't seen it yet that much, right? In the Orlando game, still early in the season. But I still think that's something that I count on and most people still count on.
Yeah, quality player. Like he's always got that, and I think you're always aware of that, whether you're watching or you're playing. And I will agree. Like I've not seen this team in Nashville. Obviously, we went away to Ottawa in the Champions Cup to start with. I don't really know what that means for anything. Like we won it. That was all you needed to do. I can't really compare the level of opposition. Like they were just poor overall. I think generally in terms of their level. I don't think we've seen a great Nashville away performance yet. We've had performances we haven't lost yet. We've done well away to keep gaining points in MLS and in terms of maybe supporters shield runs and concepts of that. But
Who did you beat away this year?
What's that?
Who did you beat away this year? I know Ottawa.
Ottawa, and then we had that game at the weekend against Columbus Crew.
So, it was in Columbus.
Yeah. So that's the other one. So that's the one where we've kind of rested. Sam and Hani came on at halftime. Nahar comes on with half an hour to go. Espinosa comes on with half an hour to go, and the game completely changes with those guys on the field. But we've still played a little bit more than you guys. You guys completely rested. You guys just said have a vacation for a week or something. It's like don't come anywhere near Charlotte.
They didn't make the trip. Yeah, they didn't make the trip.
Not even that far, but just don't even come. And I do want to see a good Nashville away performance, and that's going to need some leadership. And I think that's the thing that we'll be having to see. Hani hasn't actually been that great in terms of. You guys are very good at getting in the referee's ear. You can just ask the whole of X that. But Hani's been good at that last season when he was playing as vice captain, and I haven't seen him really step up in that way yet. And I think we're going to need to see that leadership in this game. We're going to need to see him do a little bit more. Because we haven't really seen that this year so far, and especially in a away crowd. We haven't
seen that against Miami, because Miami's had some big games against Nashville, and I feel like Hani Mukhtar hasn't really showed up in those games.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't done particularly well that I can really recall, or made significant effects. But I mean, in terms of just, I don't need him to grab the whole game and do everything, but I do need to see him lead. I do need to see him get in the referee's ear a little bit, and I do need to see him do exactly what your captain does. And I need him to maybe not be worrying about getting his shirt at the end and be worrying more about being better than him on the day.
I can see that. Real quick, like Claudia saying, people did want Miami to get a young core. Why are they complaining now? You know what? It's interesting that Claudio says that, because what you were asking about the DNA, the way that Miami plays changed, because they went with the young core, but they also went with pace, because this was a very slow team, and they decided to go with Berterame, Allende, Silvetti, right? The vertical threats. And I think they did that because in the playoffs it worked, right? They had Messi as the false nine. Then you had Allende and Silvetti taking advantage of those wide areas with their pace. But that went away once you signed Berterame, because at that point, then you no longer have Messi playing that false nine. You have to start Berterame because he paid 17 million for him. And then you're trying to figure out, okay, so what do we do with Allende? What do we do with Messi? And I think they shot themselves in their own foot. I hated the signing from the start because I thought that it was a rushed, unnecessary move. They could have waited till the summertime, but everybody was so gung-ho about we need as many weapons as we can for the CCC that everybody was kind of okay with it. And I mean, hopefully he shows up. Maybe this will be his coming out performance. Maybe he'll have a brace and everybody will be happy. But if he doesn't score on Wednesday, things are gonna get bad for him, and even worse if Miami doesn't advance. So we'll see.
Are you seeing enough in the other phases of play that you can kind of make up for it? A bit like a Gyökeres at Arsenal this year, constantly the discussion was, he's not doing anything. But then if you actually kind of watch it back in detail, you see that actually he's just, a bit like Messi can sometimes drag 4 defenders away because they're all worried about him. But maybe he doesn't have that, defenders don't have that in their minds. Well, Berterame, I need to make sure that I'm thinking about him. Maybe he doesn't have that, reputation. I know he does over here, but he doesn't have that kind of, I don't know if I would be too worried about him based on what I've seen so far. But is he contributing in that way?
What he is, and I hate to say that I'm happy because he has a high work rate as a DP player, right? You want more than that, but I will give him that. He hasn't been able to finish. You see the timing is off when with the passing, with the runs, it's all off. But his work rate is high. We've only scored, I think, 6 goals this year so far, and 2 of them have been off of forced turnovers when he has the counter press. He wins the ball, crosses it into the middle, and that led to 2 goals. One against Orlando, I think, and then the other against DC. So his work rate has been high to the point where he won man of the match for one of the games where, if you look statistically, he did absolutely nothing. But if you were watching the game, you saw the difference that he made. But as a DP player, you expect more than just high work rate. But again, that's why I said we need to be patient. What sucks for him and his situation is we brought you in to help us win the Champions Cup. That is the big goal. And if you don't pick it up soon, maybe you'll pick it up middle of the season, 3/4 of the way through, and maybe the playoffs. But the reason that they kind of rushed in signing that 3rd DP instead of waiting for the summer was for this tournament. And look, we're staring at an elimination on Wednesday if he doesn't wake up, possibly. So
it's a big ask, isn't it? It's a big ask to change your team and lose those big players and expect from the ownership that you're going to carry on exactly where you left off. Like you had an identity, a way of playing, a unity, players that have played together for honestly almost a couple of decades now. And you're then asking, well, we're going to get rid of those guys. Thanks for what you did. Thanks for the cup. Awesome. Now we're going to change half the squad, change the way that we're going to play, and then expect you just carry on and win this cup.
Well, and not just that. We're changing the way we're playing. The players, like Allende, had no training camp. Berterame, although he played 2 preseason games, he wasn't able to train with the team because of his visa issue. So he met them in South America, played in those preseason games, but couldn't come back to the States to train with them. Then you have Mikael and Falcon. It's a new setup. Region just played his first game because he got injured the first preseason game.
Yeah.
Mura also didn't play much. And then you have Dane St. Clair, which is playing a completely new style because he was used to playing behind a low block from Minnesota that held 27% possession all year long. And now he's playing, it's completely different, right? It's constant one-on-one opportunities for the opposing teams, having to be a sweeper keeper, try to sweep those balls out when they're coming, get the timing right, which he had a horrible blunder against LAFC. He has to be able to distribute the ball because we like to play out of the back. So this team has a lot of gelling to do, and they're going to be a lot better in July and August. But unfortunately, the Champions Cup is immediately once the season starts. So they don't have time to kind of gel. They just have to figure this out.
That gives me one question, though, because I was interested to see the goalkeeping situation at the weekend with him being given a rest. But then, of course, a good performance, arguably. Like, how are you feeling on that side of things? Like, what's the thought there? Because I think I'd
Well, I will.
actually change the thought there.
Luckily, Chris isn't here because he'd be asking for a poll right about now. Because Chris is all on the Rocco Rio Novos. He's been asking for him to be a starter. I think Rocco had a great game this past weekend.
Yeah.
I don't think Rocco is a great starter, but I also don't think St. Clair is a great starter for this team. So it's interesting because it's quite the dilemma. I think Rocco could win the starting job eventually if St. Clair doesn't improve. I thought he had a good game. I thought he saved us against Nashville. But he has looked poor at moments. He hasn't looked good coming out of the box. He hasn't looked clean distributing the ball. So, but again, people, because they've only gotten bits and pieces of Rocco, and I understand he had a nice playoff run just like Allende did.
Yeah.
But because they've only seen bits and pieces of Rocco, they haven't had the chance to dislike him yet. So, I get it. I get it. I think you just got to give St. Clair some time because this is all new for him also. Could you imagine? Do you watch basketball at all?
Not really.
No, okay. Because this is an analogy that I give Chris because he's a big basketball guy. But it's just when you get accustomed to having all these defenders in front of you, and they're defending with 15, it seems like Minnesota last year. Yeah. And then you go, and it's just counter after counter, and you just got to be on your toes. You got to figure out the timing of when to come out of the box. If you go back to the highlights of the LAFC Inter Miami game to start the season, he's overthinking things, though. Yeah. That was a horrible blunder. Oh, people were ready to, that's it, get rid of this guy. But it's going to take time for him. But unfortunately, again, this tournament comes on so quickly in the season that they don't have the luxury of trying to adjust and build that confidence. But no, I wouldn't go Rocco this weekend. Just because St. Clair had a good first leg. If St. Clair would have struggled against Nashville and Rocco would have had that performance, I might have changed my tune.
Better shot stopper, St. Clair, I think. I think that's
absolutely.
But a bit like us, where we've kind of gone for a keeper that can play the ball at his feet and look a little bit more mobile and a little bit more kind of to fit the way that we're playing. But you can't really bring in the goalkeeper of the year and then just say, "Oh, actually, maybe not." you kind of tie your hands there, don't you? And
absolutely.
I mean, I'm surprised you guys also got him without being a DP or anything like that. And that was a big signing to be able to make without having to spend any spaces.
But I questioned it as soon as we got him because I thought Drake Callender was a great keeper. But everybody was like, he's a great keeper. That's fine. He can stop shots. But we need him to be able to build out the back. We need him to be that sweeper keeper. That's what we need on this team. If he could only stop shots, he's not the guy for this team. So I said, okay, that's a fair point. And then we go off and we get St. Clair. I'm like, isn't that why we got rid of Drake Callender? So to me, it was a head scratcher. I understand the MLS, you don't get the high quality of keeper that can do both. But I don't know. Well, we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see.
For sure.
And shout out to Man City dropping some points there. Just a little closer to
good weekend.
The deal
Good weekend. We rested most of our Nashville players, got a win. Arsenal managed to get those 2 goals. Max Dowman comes in and brings the flair that I was calling for, that creativity. He doesn't have that kind of system mentality.
Just turned 16.
Yeah.
That was a cool moment.
Yeah, it's big. It's big. Like I don't think we can put all of our pressure on the guy, but I'm happy for him to come in and do what he can and be creative. And I think he's got that. I think he doesn't really care. I think he's kind of almost shielded from the rest of the world to some extent and just comes in, plays football, and goes home. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead and eat your Lunchable when you get home. A kid's 16 years old. They have a good time.
Your homework.
Yeah, that's it. That was awesome. That was an awesome moment.
Absolutely.
And shout out to Arsenal robbed Bayern. And then for those of you, remember, Chris is going global. He's trying to start watching some world footy. We started a YouTube channel called Battered Footy Fans. If you guys want to go and subscribe, we haven't put anything out there. There won't be anything out there for a little while. We're trying to still convince Chris to open his eyes to the world of football outside of just the MLS. But if you haven't already, go check out Battered Footy Fans. We've got over 50 subscribers already. So maybe Chris will see that number grow and maybe he'll get a little enticed to finally start talking some world footy.
Love that. Well, I'm happy to be there anytime you want me. So I can talk world footy for the rest of the year.
There you go.
Yeah. No, don't need to ask
All
me
right.
twice.
No, I'm trying to get him amped up about it so we could at least start with the World Cup, and maybe that'll,
Yeah,
the World Cup's easy to watch, right? So maybe
definitely.
I can convince him, get him to watch the World Cup, and maybe that'll like get some momentum going. And then, okay, all right, now the Premier League's about to start. Maybe we could jump onto that, and but so
Keep it
we'll
going.
see.
Keep
Yeah, let's
feeding
just
him a
keep
little
it,
trail, like a little mouse with cheese. Just keep it
just
going.
feed it
Just
out.
all the way. Come on, keep going.
Football's year round. It's crazy, but it's awesome.
Yeah,
So
that's the best
yeah,
thing
so we'll
about it.
see.
Watching it all over the world as well. Different ways of
Absolutely.
play and
And that way
style.
you can watch it 12 hours a day.
Who would Chris support in the World Cup? Do we know?
I think USA.
Here we go,
He's
USA.
Cuban. Cuban doesn't really have
No.
I mean, maybe they have a national team. I have no idea. I don't think they do. So USA, and I rock with USA also. But I got brought up in a Colombian household. Spent a lot of time in Colombia as a kid, and my father and everybody. I grew up just watching Colombia, but I love the U.S. men's national team also. But
Yeah, I
Colombia
saw the
is
shirt. That's why I was asking
Yeah.
the question. I was like,
yeah.
USA,
I rock with Colombia.
You get a
All
choice.
right,
Nice.
Is it going back home?
I like that the rest of the world knows that it's coming back home.
It's so weird to me, and I have a theory. The reason why everybody assumes that England will eventually win it is because you have so many English players in the Premier League, obviously, that they're all household names. So when you look at the roster, you're like, oh, I recognize all these players. Of course it's going home. But it never does.
No, getting close. But I don't know. Honestly, like the weird thing, I will say this. I was thinking about the World Cup the other day, and I just feel like there's not much talk about international football at all for this World Cup. Normally, World Cups have been hyped up for a long time. I don't know if it's a kind of political element of coming to the US, and obviously it's not just the US, it's 3 other nations as well. But honestly, the hype's just not there right now. And I'm expecting.
It doesn't feel it. You're right.
There's not that hype that you usually get about a World Cup. Any other World Cup so far, you're talking about it from at least January, like all the time, and people aren't even talking about when people get injured. There's barely even a mention of they might miss out on the World Cup. They're just talking about Manchester City, Tottenham, Arsenal. That's like the entire discussion in the Premier League right now, and no World Cup forward thinking, and kind of even with the England team, I'm not who's going to make the roster. Yeah, it just feels late. Just feels late.
It's taking a while. Yeah,
I want that hype.
A while.
We're 3 months out.
Yeah.
Like I want that hype. I want to start feeling excited about this, especially being here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? Maybe it'll kick off with this international break.
I think so.
Because this is the final one. So I think that now we started talking about it. The paninis will come out soon, right? They haven't come out yet. I'm really excited to buy them for my son. I tried to do it with him 4 years ago, but he was 2 at the time. I thought that he might be into it. He wasn't, but I think I got him now.
You got him now.
I'm really excited for that. Yeah, I got him now. I'm going to go to every CVS and just buy them all up. So I'm excited.
Amazing.
Tyler, I could talk football all day, but my wife will get upset if I do. So I guess I'll call it here. Tyler, let everybody know where they can find you.
You can find me at BigTV NSC on all platforms except S, where it's BigTV US. But that's it. YouTube is kind of the hub. TikTok is big. We've got lots of live streams, lots of watch-alongs on TikTok. So YouTube and TikTok are the ones to follow, subscribe, and keep up the hype. Nashville SC content, MLS content, and get to do great podcasts with guys like you.
And shout out to Uncle Matt. Uncle Matt's come on with us to talk Nashville in the past also. He said he thinks that the U.S. not qualifying took some hype out. Yeah, I mean, in the U.S. side, not having to qualify, just knowing that you're in there, I guess that could do it also. But just worldwide, it doesn't feel like it's been hyped up. But I think this international break is going to bring some more energy, and then maybe going global also. So
yeah, I hope so. Like I think it's a different world to the world that we've lived in for a few years when we've had World Cups, just politically. I don't want that to spill over to the football. I'd like the football to bring us all together and just like enjoy the love of the game. Absolutely. And it is a beautiful game that's played all over the world. And let's keep that hype. I love that.
One time every 4 years where we all speak the same language. I love it. And shout out to Freddie Santos joining for the first time. I appreciate you joining us live. I'm sorry you came here at the very end of the episode, but I appreciate that you jumped on with us anyway. So Chris couldn't make it, obviously. We're at the end, so we're probably not going to do a soccer show tonight because we do the Battered Soccer Show where we talk American football, MLS. He wants to talk USL so bad. I don't know why, but But none of that tonight, I guess. But we'll be back. I think Wednesday morning. I'm going to come back with Gary from North London. He's a Tottenham fan supporter, so
Oh,
we're going to talk some
wow.
MLS with Gary. Possibly, I got to hit him up, and then Thursday night we'll be doing our prediction show because every Thursday night we come on and we predict the scores for the following week. So that's on the Battered Soccer Fan Show. So if you haven't already subscribed to that, and then Battered Footy, if we're trying to get Chris to go global, because I want to talk world football. I mean, I could have kept going with the Premier League right now with Tyler, but we're here at an hour. Are you guys busy enough? No, not yet. Not yet. There's always time for footy. So,
Always.
all right. If you are listening on audio, appreciate you listening to the end. Please leave us 5 stars and a comment. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you like and subscribe to the Big TV NSC. Also, make sure you follow Tyler. Uncle Matt, saw him in the chat. Make sure he vlogs all things Nashville. He'll take you to the best place to eat. He'll take you to the Nashville games, all that. So make sure Geodis Park, Uncle Mad, and let's see what happens on Wednesday. We'll be back for the post game, and hopefully Miami keeps going, because if they don't, that is going to be one miserable post game. That'll be the worst post game since probably the Atlanta elimination, and it might be worse. It might be worse because we pointed to Brad Guzan playing out of his mind. And it was just the MLS. Like, I don't know. I don't even want to think about it. We need to win. We need some Messi magic.
I like thinking about that. That sounds good.
I don't want to think about it, but we'll see. Wednesday night we'll be talking about it. So appreciate everybody that joined us. All 110 of you at one point. Make sure you like and subscribe. And until the next one, have a good one.